Hi friends, my name's Della, and that's my partner Scobie. We are currently about 8 months into living with our cat Marjorie in our 16-foot travel trailer from 1983 that we call Dusty. We want to tell you the story of how we got to this point and share some of the lessons we've learned along the way. But to do that, we first need to rewind back to where it all began. We were prompted to make a change in our lifestyle early on in our relationship. While living in the city, we'd both begun to feel that our lives were controlled by money, and realized that it didn't make sense for us to spend the amount we did to rent a bedroom in San Francisco. We knew we would eventually have to leave the Bay Area if we hoped to save money and work towards our future goals, but the onset of the pandemic solidified this thought and accelerated our timeline significantly. Both of our jobs were impacted by COVID. Scobie's job was quickly able to transition to fully remote work, but for me that was not the case. So I started to question if it was worth it to continue to invest so much time and energy into a job that changed fundamentally once the pandemic hit. I did really like my job, and especially the wonderful people I worked with, but working there was no longer the same. Having such a drastic change happen so quickly inspired me to do what I'd always wanted, which is to be an artist and work for myself doing freelance creative work. But in order for this to be feasible, we would need to significantly reduce our living expenses. Prior to the pandemic, we were caught in a loop of having to work long hours to pay expensive rent, which then left us broke, beginning the cycle again. We were so bogged down by our modern existence that prioritizes work and consumption over all else that we never had the bandwidth to truly be present in our own lives. When the world came to a halt, we finally had the space to think critically about our lives, reevaluate our goals, and figure out how we would achieve them. I began to realize that I had placed a lot of my self-worth into the job title I had, and having that career change in ways that were out of my control forced me to confront that realization. I began to understand that we are all worth so much more than our job or how much money we make. We are all valid and worthy simply by being here on this planet. We've both done a lot of inner work as a result of the many realizations that dawned on us in the early days of the pandemic. So, it's for these reasons we decided to change our lives in such a way that we could cut excess costs in order to be less coupled to working, and start to build to our ultimate goal, which is exploring and seeing more of the states so we can pick a new place to live, have a small place of our own, grow food, live sustainably, and cultivate community. In order to arrive in the space we are now, we had to work together to modify our lifestyle, which entailed making many sacrifices along the way. We feel very grateful to have this time now to travel and explore creativity together.
The initial desire to spend some time living nomadically was something we came up with in the early days of our relationship. Della had never been on a road trip before, but always wanted to. When I learned this, I suggested we plan one together. So we began planning a springtime road trip through the Pacific Northwest. We're both big fans of the show Twin Peaks, so much of our travels were focused around visiting filming locations for the show. This road trip was the first event that sparked our interest in traveling together long term, and gave us the opportunity to reconnect with nature, which was a pivotal moment for us both. We both spent a lot of time in nature as kids, but had lost touch with this side of ourselves as we grew in age. It was during the research for where to camp during our road trip that we learned that many people already live their life this way, so we began to consider it as a future possibility for ourselves. We realized that for most, it is not possible to just start traveling full-time, and for us, it wasn't either. It took us over 2 years to save money to start this process before even beginning to start the renovation of our trailer. We started to cut expenses and save immediately after the road trip, and we're starting to look into other places we can move in the meantime that would have a lower cost of living and allow us to save for our future dream. But when COVID hit, we felt an urge to become more self-reliant and could no longer justify the cost of the city lifestyle we had been living. Without the help both sets of our parents gave us by allowing us to live with them each for a period of time, we would not have been able to make the transition as quickly and seamlessly as we did. We first stayed with my parents for 6 months to save money while working full-time in the city, which spared us San Francisco rent prices and allowed us to save most of the money we earned during that period. Then, Della's parents let us come down south and stay with them while we renovated our trailer.
So by this point, we had a plan in mind, but there was still one other critical factor that would determine if the future we had envisioned for ourselves was even possible, and that was our cat Marjorie. We wanted to be sure that she would be truly comfortable living a nomadic lifestyle before pursuing our plan further. I adopted Marjorie before Scobie and I were together and immediately started training her to walk on a leash with the intention of eventually taking her on walks around the neighborhood and to our local parks. So Marge did have some experience outdoors already, but we needed to be sure she would be comfortable out in more wild spaces. So together, we set a goal of hiking with her every weekend so that we could acclimate her to the kinds of situations she would find herself in for full-time travel.
Hi, girls! How'd you get up there? We are extremely lucky because Marjorie took to this well and immediately was enjoying herself and seemed comfortable out on excursions. Her personality makes this lifestyle a great fit because she is naturally very outgoing, brave, and smart. Since Marge was doing well, we decided that we were ready to start looking into purchasing a van or RV. After a lot of research, we realized that we would not be able to afford an all-in-one rig that was modern enough to feel comfortable relying on, and didn't want to purchase anything we couldn't pay for in cash, or invest time and money into building out an older vehicle that could potentially break down or be rendered undrivable in some way. We wanted to strike a balance between a cheap but reliable setup, so we decided to start looking into trailers to tow. We figured that we can always upgrade our vehicle if needed if our living quarters were separate. After lots of looking on Craigslist, we eventually got our trailer and stored it at Della's aunt's house until we were ready to move down south to renovate. We were extremely grateful to have a family member who had a place they were willing to let us keep it. There is no way we could have kept it in the city without paying to store it somewhere, so this helped us out a lot. We took the trailer out on a few camping trips with Marjorie before we started renovating it to get a sense of what amenities we would want to prioritize in our build. Each time went extremely well, so we were feeling good about it working for longer-term traveling. On the trips we took out as a test run, Marge seemed to immediately recognize the trailer as her home base and enjoy being out on adventure.
Oh my god! She jumped right in! Marge!
Knowing for certain that she was going to do well, we decided to finally fully commit, head down south, and begin the renovation process.
What do you think of the hot spring, Marge? In early 2021, we drove down to my hometown to stay with my parents while renovating the trailer. We began by ripping everything out and starting from a blank canvas. The inside of the trailer was in pretty rough shape when we got it, but luckily it did have a solid structure to build upon. For this renovation, we tried to refurbish and reuse as many of the original parts from the trailer as we could, which helped keep our build quite cheap. We also prioritized purchasing the most sustainable options whenever possible for materials we did have to buy. This entire project was designed with simplicity at top of mind, so we configured all of our systems to involve as little complexity as possible. Before taking the trailer out on the test runs, we had a lot of elaborate ideas, but we quickly realized that many of the things we thought were necessary were not. Ripping everything out and cleaning, including removing all of the old lining from the interior, took about a month and a half. This was by far the most labor-intensive part of the build, but due to the condition of the old ensolite walling, it was necessary. It was coming detached in several areas and was damp due to leaking and missing rivets that allowed moisture in between the lining and the fiberglass. Scobie was still working full-time, but I was not, so he continued to work and save money, and I focused on planning and executing the renovation. getting help from Scobie when he was available, and my dad or our next door neighbor for some of the more challenging tasks that we needed assistance with.
Maybe I'll try on this side again. Oh! I loosened it. Ooh! Yeah! You did it!
You did
Kiss
it!
me. Good job.
Kiss me through the window. Through the window.
Because I had absolutely no experience with building of any kind, this process involved a ton of learning and trial and error, but I was able to learn a lot of new valuable skills as a result. Completing this project showed us the power of our own minds and truly did prove to us that we actually can do anything we put our minds to. This realization helped us both to gain a lot of confidence in ourselves and our abilities.
She is coming
Okay.
I didn't cut this one.
Oh, I cut this one. Yeah, I don't think I plans outside. It goes on.
Okay.
Okay. Hey,
Go, 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 go.
let's do this. It's at play here. Okay. This is fine. Now we can fix it.
Just,
Now we'll put this in. It's fine.
it's fine. It's fine. It's so fine.
I think the fact that we keep saying it's fine is because we're trying to convince ourselves that it's fine.
It's fine.
This is fine. Can I try rolling?
Yeah, roll.
Oh, it's kind of fun.
That's so much fun.
Yeah. Looks good.
Here's Margie. Oh.
Let's start checking it out. She's the inspector. She's so
Guys, you
cute.
left the scissors open over here. That's not a smart idea.
It's a safety violation.
Next, we started to work on some interior pieces and repair all of the old wiring. I made new doors for some of the cabinets, built 2 new wooden cabinets, refurbished every piece of fiberglass inside, removed old light fixtures, replaced the old warped wooden floor, and added countertops made of leftover flooring to the stove and sink cabinets. We also added a new larger escape hatch on top, replaced the taillights with LED fixtures, created new brackets to remount the awning, and replaced the cracked front and back windows. The trailer came with a sink handmade by one of the previous owners, but it was made of wood and very leaky, so we replaced it with a deeper copper sink and made a matching faucet out of copper pipe to go with the jug and foot pump system that powers the sink. We opted to use this system so we would never have to move the trailer in order to get water. We finished up lining the trailer by adding a layer of cork, cleaned every interior surface, and either painted or stained and sealed them. All of the rivets got replaced and sealed with silicone and a special rivet cap from the Scamp Factory Parts store that keeps them from rusting or leaking.
Acorn's on.
We also installed a gravel shield with a kit we got from Scamp as well to protect our new front window while driving.
It's raining. Okay, I really need to close. Oh my god, I need to close up the Scamp! We got these windows and everything in at the perfect time because, oh my god, it would have been so bad if we hadn't gotten those big boys in. Oh, Dusty, you're getting wet. Okay, I should close you. Okay, I'm holding it.
By this point, it was early July and had begun getting extremely hot down in the desert. We had routinely been working in conditions in the low 100s, but the temperatures were continuing to climb, becoming too hot to comfortably or safely work. We had completed everything we needed to do other than install a wood-burning stove, which we had already purchased. But since we didn't need it for the summer anyway, we decided to leave and start traveling without installing it, and wait until the fall when we had planned to go back to the Bay Area for a family visit.
left Southern California on July 6th and spent the next month and a half traveling all over California's national forests. In August, we met up with our good friends that we used to live with in the city. We went to a place that we had camped at together several times. On the third day of our trip, we decided to check out a new spot along the river. We were there a couple of hours when we began to notice clouds of smoke billowing in the distance. The smoke was quickly moving in our direction, so we headed out of the river valley to get cell service and assess the situation. When we got service, we realized that the fire was close to us, so we made the decision to return to our campsite and pack up in order to evacuate. Immediately after this, all of the forests in California shut down for camping due to wildfire risk. We had planned to stay in the forest until closer to the end of August with the intent to head back to the city to celebrate my grandmother's 90th birthday. But with the forest closing in our home state and only 3 more weeks till we were due to be back in the Bay anyway, we decided it would be best to return sooner than planned to regroup and decide what our next move would be.
This is where our story leaves off for now. Thank you so much for watching, and we do hope you enjoyed. The next part will be coming soon.